If you thought Disney had learned its lesson about girl boss Snow White, think again. They're gonna make us choke on that spoonful of peas regardless of how much we complain about it. Hey y'all, SnarkyJay cosplay here. As of the time of this video's recording, we're just a few days out from the D23 Disney Expo this year in 2024. Now, Disney has had no shortage of box office flops and major controversies in the past couple of years, but maybe the biggest one that we've talked about quite a bit on this channel is the upcoming Snow White film starring Rachel Zegler as the girl boss version of the princess and Gal Gadot as the evil queen, because that makes perfect sense. Anyways, we've talked a lot about the different controversies and stuff like that surrounding this movie, and we're gonna get a little bit more into that in a minute. But because of all the heat that Disney faced, it seemed like the movie wasn't going to happen at all. But according to Rachel Zegler's Instagram, I think we might be f***ed, and we're probably gonna be hearing more about this nightmare very, very soon. This live-action remake of Snow White has been in and out of production for quite some time now, and unfortunately for folks over at Disney, it has been plagued by controversy, mostly because of comments made by its star. Rachel Zegler, who was also the star of The Hunger Games: A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, has had a lot to say about her version of Snow White. At D23 2 years ago, she gave an interview where she specified all the changes that were gonna be happening with this version of Snow White. Her version of Snow White was not going to exist to fall in love with the prince. Instead of dreaming of love and affection and romance, her dreams were all about being the boss of 7 dwarves in a shack.
She's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
Okay, am I getting that right? Because it is so un-2024 and so totally uncool for women to have aspirations of romance in an era where Bumble and Tinder exist, that now we all need to dream of power and labor instead of dreaming of a man that can sweep us off our feet. I always say, ¿por qué no los dos? Why not both? But apparently that's not how things work anymore. Rachel Zegler was very firm in her belief that her Snow White is a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a prince.
I just mean that it's no longer 1937. She's not going to be safe with the prince.
And that the prince, in fact, was a creepy stalker.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Never mind that in the original Snow White, it's actually really cute the way he falls in love with her. According to Rachel Zegler, that was creepy, so her Snow White doesn't need a man to come and save her.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's an inner journey that she goes on to find her true self.
Her Snow White was going to be the girl boss of all girl bosses. And so this naturally, of course, to people who know and love the story of Snow White, which, yes, it's nonsensical, it's a little bit fantastic, but guess what? It's a story about Disney f***ing princesses. She sings with animals. Of course it's nonsense. I don't need to be told about the patriarchy in a children's movie. So naturally, this was an issue, and a lot of people took issue with what Rachel Zegler had to say. And there were also some issues based entirely on the fact that Rachel Zegler's narrative about Snow White has changed multiple times. In some interviews, she mentioned that she was absolutely terrified of the ride as a child.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it. Never revisited Snow White again.
And in others, it was her favorite thing on the planet.
Wow.
It's one of the original, I'm a really big Disney fan. I grew up at the Disney parks. My parents took me every summer.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a part of my upbringing. It's my favorite thing, so.
And she had to pose in front of the ride and have people ask for pictures of her.
But you can't even go to Disneyland anymore. Have you ever been to that Snow White ride at Disneyland?
I get stopped for photos every time I'm online for the Snow White ride, and it is I have to pretend like, oh God, well, crazy that we're in front of this.
Wait, how often are you in line for the Snow White ride?
And I was like, God, I hope no one, because every time they come up to me, I'm always online for this freaking ride.
Doubt. And so after pretty much a year and a half of straight controversy when it came to this movie, Disney announced that they were basically going to be pushing it back and delaying it indefinitely. And I've come to realize that delayed indefinitely in Hollywood terms usually means never going to see the f***ing light of day again. But it seems like that's not the case. On Rachel Zegler's Instagram this week, she posted that she was taking off to LA. She also teased that it was going to be a big weekend. Now, I don't know any of this for sure, but my theory is that she posted this to tease the fact that she is going to be at D23, and presumably they're going to have a teaser or a trailer for the live-action remake of Snow White at D23 this year. So it's not bad enough that we get that super weird interview 2 years ago at D23, but now we're going to have to sit through a teaser, a trailer that's probably going to drop after it releases at D23. Disney is moving full speed ahead with this movie. There is no way we're going to escape it. And I'm honestly kind of shocked because based on all the financial losses that Disney has had with a number of different flops, all the criticisms they've had for recent movies, whether it's been Star Wars, Pixar, what have you, you would think that they would make some smarter moves. The people have spoken. We're not asking for girl boss Snow White. We don't need it, and we definitely don't need somebody preaching to us about what is or isn't correct in Disney princess movies. I think showing little girls that the idea of true love and romance is out there is actually a really nice notion. I've been on enough dating apps for a long enough time to know that it's all bullshit. But I'd like to live the fantasy. I don't want girl boss Snow White. And I think I'm not the only one that shares this sentiment. You would think that Disney would go through some rewrites, some reshoots, and fix it up and make it so this live action Snow White is the Snow White we all know and love. And that's obviously not what's happened. We haven't heard of any reshoots, so obviously they are planning on moving ahead. And quite frankly, I'm not interested in the film or anything that she has to say or any agendas about girls not being allowed to want love and only needing to want power. I firmly believe that you can be a strong and independent woman while also very much yearning for and possibly loving a man. They're not mutually exclusive, and in fact, I think you're a more well-rounded person when you're both capable of independence and strength and also softness and affection for another living being. When your world revolves around power and your own self-importance, you are up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. But I guess we'll see how Disney manages that with Snow White. That's all from me. I've been SnarkyJay. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. For more SnarkyJay, be sure to check me out on Instagram. And if you'd like to support me, this channel, and my content creation, do check out and consider subscribing to my Patreon for exclusive photo shoot sets and cosplay content. I will add links to all of those in the description below. And let me know your thoughts on the upcoming Snow White remake in the comments below.